Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to the daily quiz video for the day. Before we begin the quiz on important news for the day, there are a couple of important announcements. Number one, on 11th of September, that is Sunday, 11 a.m., we have the BYJU'S National Scholarship Test. The test that gives you a chance to win up to 90% scholarship on your civil services preparation. It's an online test. You need to register for this test if you want to appear. The registration lines will be open till 6 a.m. on 11th of September. The link to register is given in the description of the video. Don't forget to register to check how your preparation is for the civil service examination. Secondly, this Friday, the explained session will be taken on the legacy of Mikhail Gorbachev. The tall USSR leader who passed away recently has left behind a very rich legacy and is considered to be one of the most influential people in the entire world and is partly responsible for bringing an end to the Cold War. Abhishek sir will be discussing in detail the legacy left behind by Mikhail Gorbachev. Now let's begin with question number 1 on your screen. Consider the following statements with regards to National Clean Air Program. Number 1. It seeks to cut the concentration of coarse particle matter of diameter 10 micrometer or less, that is PM10, and fine particles, which are considered as PM2.5 or less, by 20 to 30% by 2024, with 2017 as a base year for comparison. Second, the program was launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in Jan of 2019. And third, it includes 123 non-attainment cities, those cities which did not meet the national ambient air quality standards for 5 years. 5 years from 2014 to 2018. Which of these given statements are correct about the NCAP? The correct answer here is D. All the three given statements with regards to National Clean Air Program are correct. It includes 123 of those cities that did not meet the national ambient air quality standards for 5 years from 2014 to 2018. This target that they have kept has actually been criticized by the National Green Tribunal. The National Green Tribunal, the NGT, wants them to keep a much more strict target as compared to this that they have actually kept for themselves. The reason why we're discussing this question is that the report has recently come out of all the cities which are a part of the National Clean Air Program, including the 123 non-attainment cities. Out of the 131 cities that have been measured, in 95 cities the air quality has improved, while in 27 cities the air quality has worsened. The article tells us about which are the cities which have shown improvement. Varanasi recorded the most marked improvement, that is 53% in the air quality levels. Varanasi had an annual average concentration of PM10 of 244, which has now dropped to 144 in 2021 as compared to 2017. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to Subhash Chandra Bose and INA, that is Indian National Army. Number 1. Owing to political differences, he resigned from the Congress presidentship in 1939 and organized the All India Forward Bloc, a faction within the Congress in Bengal. Second, on 21st October 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose announced the formation of Provisional Government of Azad Hind in Singapore. Third, the INA, the Indian National Army, was formed first under Mohan Singh and Japanese Mayor Iwaichi Fujiwara and comprised Indian prisoners of war of the British Indian Army captured by Japan in the Malayan, that is today's Malaysia, campaign and at Singapore. Which of these given statements is or are correct? It's a slightly tricky question. The correct answer here is 1 and 3. So C is the correct option. Second statement is wrong because the formation of the Provisional Government of Azad Hind in Singapore was actually in 1943 and not in 1941. The reason why we are discussing this question is, as you know, the statue of Sri Subhash Chandra Bose will be unveiled at India Gate very soon. This statue has brought to the news once again the contribution of Subhash Chandra Bose and the INA in India's independence. This is the year of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and the country pays tribute to Subhash Chandra Bose on 8th of September as a statue will be raised next to the India Gate. The transfer of power to India, as you know, took place on 15th of August 1947, but Subhash Chandra Bose had died before that in a very unfortunate plane crash. There have been a lot of controversy theories that have been floating around about Subhash Chandra Bose's death and how he might not have died, but nothing has been confirmed by any government so far. We know that Subhash Chandra Bose arrived in Singapore on 2nd of July 1943, after which he announced the formation of Azad Hind Provincial Government in Singapore. Next, question number 3. Which of the following is or are non-communicable diseases? Cancer, tuberculosis, Alzheimer's disease, malaria, or diabetes? Non-communicable, which are not communicated from one person to the other. So, cancer, yes. Tuberculosis, no, it can be communicated. Alzheimer's disease, yes, again a non-communicable disease. Malaria, no. Now, malaria is one of those diseases with which people have a slight confusion. It does not spread from person to person, but mosquito can spread this from one infected person to the other. So, malaria again is a communicable disease. Diabetes again a non-communicable disease. So, the correct answer here is A. 1, 3, and 5 are non-communicable diseases. The reason why we are discussing this question is that WHO will now be stressing on prevention of non-communicable diseases. The WHO members just held a session on Southeast Asia Regional Committee in Bhutan, where the focus was on stopping the spread of non-communicable diseases. The article tells you that non-communicable diseases include cardiovascular diseases, cancer, respiratory diseases, and diabetes as well. They account for almost 2/3 of all the deaths in the Southeast Asia region. Next is question number 4. Consider the following statements with regard to the Border Road Organization. Number 1. It works under the administrative control of the Ministry of Defense. Second, BRO only takes up projects within India. Third, the BRO was conceived and raised in 1960 by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru for coordinating the speedy development of a network of roads in the north and northeastern border regions in the country. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be C. 1 and 3 are correct. The second statement is wrong because BRO has actually taken up a lot of very critical infrastructure projects outside the country as well, especially in India's neighborhood, including in Afghanistan, Myanmar as well. For example, the Zarganj-Dilaram highway in Afghanistan that would connect Iran with Afghanistan through the Chabahar port, that also has been constructed by the BRO only. So they do take up critical infrastructure projects outside India as well. Third statement and the first statements are correct. The second is wrong. The reason why we are discussing this question is because Army is planning to undertake major infrastructure development along the LAC in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, for many decades, China was the one that had been following this policy of building a lot of heavy infrastructure near the border areas and claim their areas as the Chinese areas. Now, the government of India has taken up this idea. In the past few years, a lot of major infrastructure development has taken place near the border areas, up there in Ladakh area as well, in Arunachal as well, and other parts of the border states in India. Next, we have a previous year question from 2016. India is an important member of ITER, that is International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. If this experiment succeeds, what is the immediate advantage for India? It can use thorium in place of uranium for power generation. It can attain a global role in satellite navigation. It can drastically improve the efficiency of its fission reactors in power generation, or it can build fusion reactors for power generation. The correct answer is D. As you know, all the commercial power plants, that is the nuclear power plants across the world right now, work on nuclear fission technology. The countries around the world so far have not been able to master the nuclear fusion technology. The difference is, nuclear fusion means when two small particles combine to form a larger particle. This is the nuclear reaction through which energy is produced on sun and on different stars. This produces much more energy as compared to nuclear fission. Multiple nations have come together to work in an experiment called ITER. This is a project that has been set up in France, and India is also a part of it along with other nations across the world. Again, the objective is to make sure that we can achieve control over the nuclear fusion reaction. This is based on a technology called the tokamak. It's a nuclear fusion technology which was first developed in Russia. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we'll be discussing about the PM SHRI scheme. PM SHRI here stands for Pradhan Mantri Schools for Rising India scheme. Now, just a couple of days, as you know, The Prime Minister had announced that 14,500 schools across the country will be upgraded and they will be showcased as components of national education policy specially. Under the scheme, it will include schools from across the states and union territories in the country. And the idea is to revamp the structural curriculum, the teaching style, and other aspects of the school to bring them in line with the suggestions given in the national education policy. As per the policy, as you know, the foundational years should involve play based learning, while the preparatory level, that is classes 3rd to 5, light textbooks should be introduced. The same method will now be followed in these schools under the PM SHRI scheme. The subject teachers will be introduced only in the middle level, that is 6th to 8th. Before class 6, there will not be any subject teachers as such. This is a centrally sponsored scheme in which central government will give 60% of the expenses while the state governments in most of the cases are expected to give 40% of the contribution, except in the northeastern states and the hilly areas where the states will only be giving 10% of the contribution. All the Kendriya Vidyalayas, the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas run by the Ministry of Education at the union level will also be covered under this particular scheme. The idea is if a particular school wants to enroll under this, they will have to apply, and the portal will be opened 4 times a year so that the schools can apply here and the government can then impose their own structural curriculum in these schools and see how the impact of the new education policy comes in the long run. Only those schools that meet a certain criteria will qualify, which will include 60 parameters including electricity to toilets to other important infrastructure for the schools. This is it for today's daily quiz video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day ahead.